Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to the workshop today, coming to you live from Local First office here in Central Phoenix. My name is Alicia Marseille, and I have my colleague here, Amanda Jordan. We both are here to talk about circular economy and the work that we're doing at ASU. So you're going to learn a lot, and I believe you can also ask questions as we're going through the presentation through the chat, and we can address them as well. The program that we are both working with is the RISN Incubator Accelerator Program. We're funded through the Economic Development Administration, City of Phoenix, Reimagine Phoenix, 2 units at ASU, Walton Sustainable Solutions Initiative and Entrepreneurship and Innovation. So as you can see, entering into a new area like circular economy takes a lot of collaboration to make things happen. Today, we're going to go through the RISN Incubator, give you some background information, circular economy, why circular economy is important, show you some examples of business models, and then even how to incorporate some best practices as well.
Great. Thank you, Alicia. So now I'm just going to talk a bit more about RISN Incubator and what it is that we do here at ASU. So first off, RISN Incubator, RISN itself stands for Resource Innovation and Solutions Network. It started as a partnership between Arizona State University and the City of Phoenix back in 2014 under former Mayor Greg Stanton. And the partnership was established to help City of Phoenix and the Reimagine Phoenix initiatives in terms of reaching their zero waste goals. Back in 2016, we launched the Incubator component, which is a collaborative niche business accelerator with the goal of advancing circular economy. So we work with early stage entrepreneurs and startups who are doing waste to product innovation or waste to service. Wrong way. So some of the goals out of this partnership with City of Phoenix, first and foremost, to accelerate the circular economy here in the Phoenix metro area. By doing so, we can create new ventures, jobs, and economic opportunities. We drive local innovation, divert landfill waste, and create a healthier, more livable urban climate in general. And you'll see here at the bottom, we have some economic impact details coming out of the first cohort within the incubator. So at the end of the beginning of May 2018, when they filtered out, we had 26 full-time jobs, 4 part-time, 19 internships, 1.345 million in capital raised, 3.15 million in revenues generated, and 10 new products launched with 2 patents filed. So a lot of great work coming out of that first first cohort. So now we just want to jump into what exactly circular economy is. So first and foremost, there's a problem. Currently, we live in a linear model, which is a take, make, waste pattern. And you'll see this graphic down here coming out of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is the premier organization for all things circular economy. And they released some data a few years back that essentially said by 2050, there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. And part of that is coming from this problem of a linear economy. So linear economy typically is extract, manufacture, distribute, consume, and discard. Globally, there's 10 tons per capita raw materials being extracted annually. Commodity prices are continuously rising. From 2002 to 2010, they rose 150% alone. And by 2030, we're expecting 3 billion middle-class consumers to enter into the global market. So this is going to put an even bigger strain on the economy than it already has. And so now I just want to show you a quick video that gives you a great synopsis into circular economy coming from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Just get that going for you.
Living systems have been around for a few billion years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food, energy is provided by the sun, things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components, and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, no resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers, and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that little video. I think it does a great job of showcasing the benefits of transitioning to a circular economy. And so just touching on a little bit of what was spoken about, circular economy aims to redefine growth by focusing on positive society-wide benefits. So here you see the linear economy model we've seen before, and circular economy does exactly what it sounds like. It circularizes it. So you produce, distribute, consume, and then you reuse, recycle, and send it back into the industry that it came from, or you send it out to the recycling sector and it can be broken down and turned into new products. Circular economy is based on three principles: designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating natural systems. And so I'm going to pass it off to Alicia to talk a bit more about why this is important.
Okay, really quickly, just a few things to touch on. So in the first cohort, we had 10 companies. The second cohort, we currently have 6 companies. And I think what's exciting is that we're not only working to build and work with early stage companies that exist here in Phoenix, but we're also looking at how do we attract and bring companies to expand and operate and open with some pretty innovative technologies here that can solve some of our local problems. For example, one of the companies that we work with is bringing some pretty amazing recycling solutions to even rural parts of Arizona. So we do primarily focus in Metro Phoenix, but there's definitely opportunities to expand and work definitely beyond the metro borders and looking at statewide options. So I think thinking about why circular economy is pretty crucial. As Amanda said, this idea of we extract raw materials, we make something, and then we throw it away. As we continue to do that and populations rise, you can imagine the types of tensions that it's going to put on the system, right? So some may argue, but we live in what's called a free market economy, right? So we generate resources and technology. Corporations use those to create some type of product. They go through some type of supply chain to meet the demands of consumers, right? But part of the issue is that there's significant impacts that are being ignored. Some of those might be environmental, social, and economic. So we're going to walk through some of those. So you've got global population that's rising, right? You've got you'll see the trend here, the total population, that green line, there's a significant increase, right? So as people and populations grow and expand, what does that mean? They start to consume more, right? So you'll see here on this map, this is the global city populations. As you'll see that this is for 2010. There at the bottom is the timeline. The red dots show the megacities. So watch this as you go from 2010 to 2030. Keep your eyes on those megacities. Whoa, it's huge, right? Let's go back. So population's growing, right? So people are going to start consuming more. They're going to start throwing more trash away. So you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, country income groups, inequality is growing and expanding as a result of these, as part of these tensions. Water scarcity on the right, you'll see that graph. The red, obviously, and the orange indicate some of the areas where there is the largest water scarcity issues, which is hovering over our region. And you'll also see that energy consumption is rising by country there at the bottom. So these are some of the tensions, right, that are adding to population growth and development. So you'll also see who generates the most waste on this next slide in the upper left-hand corner. The US is one of those darker shaded countries that's generating a tremendous amount of waste. The right is the food waste category. The lower left, you'll see, oh boy, it's so small I can't even see. Yeah, plastic waste, and then the lower right is e-waste. So you'll see as e-waste has a tremendous amount of impact in the environment, right? You've got all these components that have rare earth metals and toxicities in them. The red dots indicate the source of where the e-waste is consumed, and the blue dots are where it's dumped. So you'll see that there's definitely a trend heading east. And there's a lot of challenges in waste management, right? So if you think about the way waste management currently works, you put your bin outside, right? On the left-hand side, you've got the developed countries, North America, as well as Europe. We put our bins out and we don't really think about what happens as a result of that. Myself included, before I actually started this, you just put your little neat blue bin out and the city of Phoenix reimagined trucks come and pick it up. But it's important to think about what happens, right? And so you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, there's a China waste import ban photo. China predominantly has been the largest importer of our recyclables. So our recycling strategy has been, you put your blue bin out, the city collects it, or private haulers collect it, and then they ship it and export it to China. China is no longer accepting the waste, the recyclables. And so that means we have to figure out how do we keep those in our economy longer, and what do we do with those other than landfilling them? The lower right-hand corner is waste collection in a lot of developing regions. Ironically, a lot of developing regions have, in the informal sector, waste picker organizations that actually do a good job of going through the waste and getting them to private recyclers in those regions and actually reusing them in those regions. So the impacts are ignored, right? The global population's rising. You've got all those graphs in terms of what it's doing energy-wise, waste-wise, and then you've got this idea of the China ban. We used to export our recyclables overseas and no longer can we do that. So how do we turn these problems into opportunities, right? That's some of the greatest things that entrepreneurs are really good at. How do we take the problems and turn them into opportunities? And from a manufacturing standpoint, if you're manufacturing things, if you have access to free raw materials like the recyclables, that's pretty amazing. Think what that can do for your margins. So the idea of circular economy, keeping those things in the waste stream longer, right? How do we use those bottles to turn those, I don't know if any of you have seen that plastic bottles turned into textile threads, right? So that you're starting to see that's very common. There's a company back east called Unify that actually takes plastic bottles through the processes of shredding, pelletizing, and then turning into textile threads. That's one example. Another example is City of Phoenix recently issued an RFP for plastics 3 through 7, which is the flexible packaging, which has no economic value. So they're looking for a company to actually take those 3 through 7s and turn them into something else. Circular business models. This is exciting, right? How do you turn these opportunities into new products? So I gave you a few examples. It actually forces you to think about your business model, right? It forces you to see different elements in the business model you may not have considered before. A lot of you have seen the traditional business model canvas before. This is the circular economy business model. If you go to the website Circulab, you'll see it on the left-hand corner there. You can actually download this PDF, and forces you to think about the positive and negative impacts of your company, right? What types of natural resources are you using, energy resources, and what are some of those outputs? And you'll see your revenues and costs are still at the bottom also. There are several examples. Viga is one of them. It's a company that instead of manufacturing baby clothes and selling them like a lot of manufacturers do, they actually have turned their business model, instead of selling products, they've turned it into a service. So that's an example of a circular model, right? You can actually subscribe to their service and they'll mail you baby and maternity clothes. Think about the time that as you're going through the maternity phase, you're only wearing those clothes for a few months, and then similarly with the babies. So how do you keep those baby clothes in the economy longer? I think after 5 years is when they take the baby clothes off their market and probably into the secondary markets. There's other examples. There's a company in Portland called Go PDX Box, and they saw that takeout containers in restaurants are disastrous and create lots of waste. So they created also a service model out of it with an app. And you can, at restaurants, take your reusable to-go container. Once you eat your food, there are drop stations all around the city to take that there. They pick it up, wash it, and take it back to the restaurants. So lots of people that are saying, instead of creating businesses that generate more products that people don't necessarily need, how do we solve problems, existing problems, that can have greater impacts? Also, one of my favorites is there's a company in India that created a new type of utensil, eating utensil. If you think about in India, the billions of population that were using plastic utensils, right? Single-use plastic. They're using a fork to eat, soup, rice, whatever, and then they threw it away. So there's a company that actually, it's called Bakeys. They took sorghum flour, figured out a way that it would last in hot liquid up to 30 minutes, and then they can eat it. And they're vegan. They have all different flavors. But that's an example of, how do we do some R&D, figure out a way to solve this problem, and then create a solution that is not just profitable, but also has some social and environmental positive implications as well.
All right, so now that we've filled up your brains with all information on circular economy, we typically shift into hands-on incorporation of CE practices. But since this is a webinar, we're going to switch it up a little bit. So if you are sitting at home and you have a pen or pencil or keychain or anything like that nearby, feel free to participate. So typically what we do is we break people up into groups and we ask you to take apart the product that you have. So Alicia is taking apart the pen that we have here. And when you take it apart, you want to separate it out into all the different bits that put the item together in the first place. And you want to start asking yourself, which materials and components of this object, so in our case, this pen, can actually be recovered and reused. So you see we have plastic, we have the tube holding the ink, you have a little metal bit for the clip. And so you want to start thinking, is this economically viable to, first of all, disassemble how we are? And can these items actually be put back into the market, or do they have to just go back into the landfill? If they're not economically viable, what would need to change to make it so? Product design, business models, things of that nature. And so,
yeah, a huge part of the problem, like Amanda said, is taking these products apart, right? We've built these amazing types of products. Pens are one example, but have a lot of intricate parts. Taking them apart takes a lot of labor, which from a business perspective costs a lot of money. The other hard part is, how do we recoup these products, right? So instead of people throwing them away, how do we get them back? So a lot of corporations are starting to think, how do we get these materials back? H&M started the take back program, right? Bring your clothes to H&M, they give you a discount, and then they reuse and that's fast fashion, right? So they're trying to figure out a way, how do we take them back? Pens are harder, right? You're going to put them in a bin at Walmart, Staples. How do you collect the materials back? How do you take them apart in a way that makes economic sense? Or how do you redesign them in a way that solves some of those problems? 80% of waste can be designed out with the design phase and redesigning different types of products. Or how do you turn it into a service? I could go to a kiosk and refill my pen with ink, right? That would not require me to buy more pens, but I could just simply refill it. But there's opportunity in it, right? So it forces us to think, how can we turn this example of a pen into a different opportunity with keeping in mind the cost factors, the interacting with consumers to get the materials back, or how do you just create a new business model altogether and turn it into some type of service where I could fill my pen in a kiosk?
So this is a really great activity. We pulled it from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and IDEO's Circular Design Guide. It's a free platform. You can go on there and find all kinds of great activities like this. And it's a really great entry into analyzing material flows and understanding how things are made and how they impact the environment. So definitely recommend checking out the website, scoping out the other activities, and maybe testing them on your own at home. And so some things we want to leave you with to think about in terms of your business or service, or perhaps you're a mentor working with other businesses, to really start thinking about the amount of waste that's being generated by the business. Where does it go? How can you find ways to reduce the amount of waste? How about reusing it? Can you, save all your plastic bottles and turn them into thread, like the company back east that Alicia spoke to earlier? Have you ever thought about redesigning your business operations to minimize waste and take into account these environmentally friendly options? For example, changing purchasing processes to use products that are more circular or eco-friendly. So there's a lot of little areas where you can make some tweaks and really start to make an impact and help the transition to circular economy.
And really quick, so I know changing your purchases as a small business is really difficult, right? You're already small, you're operating really lean. So then it becomes, if there is a slight increase in cost, how can you recoup that cost somewhere else? Mm-hmm. How can you integrate that in your marketing to utilize those sustainable practices as a way to attract different types of consumers? Consumers are definitely becoming more conscientious. So while one may seem like a trade-off, how do you turn that in your business into something that's positive through, say, example, marketing? And reducing the amount of waste. If you're a restaurant, one way you can start to think about the amount of waste that you create is when you're bringing food back into, food that people don't eat, putting it in a bin over the course of so many days. What does that look like? How much is being wasted? And then you can seek out other businesses in the community that take that waste and do something with it. Recycled City is a good example of a local business that takes food waste, for example, if you're a restaurant, and composts it. So doing a little bit of homework and research to figure out how much waste is there, what are the local options to repurpose it, and then how do you, change your purchases, knowing that you're already operating lean, but turning that into a positive.
And that is it.
Yes, so if you'd like to learn more, our website's risinincubator.asu.edu. You'll see a list of the different types of companies that are on there. We also have a blog on there with regular updated content. So if you are doing some of these things, you should send us an email. The email's on the website. It could be something that we share out to the community as well. And feel free, as you look at the website and go through this presentation, if you have any questions, to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you.